Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 7:01. Could I please get a roll call?
Katie Newton.
Here.
Holly Kane.
Here.
Shauna Manthorn.
Here.
Kim McCormick.
She's excused.
Jack Sapia.
Here.
Kristen Savage.
She's excused.
Mark Sherwood.
Here.
Reed Woodward.
Here.
And John Woodward.
Here.
All right, if everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, it's over here this time. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have some meeting minutes for August 17th that are the public. Let's go ahead and look at those, and then we will also have some non-public meeting minutes to look at as well.
I will make a motion to accept and approve the meeting minutes from the August 17th, 2023 school board meeting.
I have a motion by Shauna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. Okay, and then again, you have some non-public meeting minutes in front of you all.
Make a motion, we accept the non-public minutes from August 17th, 2003.
23.
23, okay.
Second.
A motion by Jack, second by Shauna. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. 7-0-0. Can you please pass this up?
So we had a scheduled presentation tonight. Maria's gonna present. We feel it's important for the staff member to be here. And there's just a scheduling conflict, so they're gonna be with us at the end of September. So we're not gonna have it tonight.
Okay.
But we'll welcome Maria to the mic and celebrate a staff member on the 21st.
Okay. On the 21st. Yeah. The way you were going, I was like, is she coming tonight?
No, we were hoping so, but wasn't able to make it.
All right, next for delegates and individuals, we have two. First one being up is Mr. Jack Sapia. And again, I will remind you that you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Just saying, sir.
Everyone does. You notice how the
Hey, it started now.
should be part of my 3 minutes. The moderator during deliberative session gives me that same warning.
All right, time's yours now.
Okay. I'm here in my capacity tonight as a dad, a taxpayer, a former coach, not in any way, shape, or form as a school board rep, nor should my comments reflect anything coming from the board or the chair that I hold. That may come later on tonight. It was brought to my attention on Tuesday night that this district was decided to charge the Timberlane Tornadoes for use of the fields this year for the first time in 55 years. Immediately after delegations and individuals, I will be asking the school board to waive policy KFR for the following reasons. If you read the strategic plan, it says we want to improve the climate and culture. We actually pay for someone to help us with that. I can't think of a better group of individuals as our volunteers that we have, whether it's Boy Scouts, AYBS, the Tornadoes, to the Timberwolves. I can go right down the list. We're a volunteer community. We talk about community involvement is in the strategic plan, volunteerism, making this campus the hub of activity where we're drawing all our residents in. And I can tell you firsthand that these objectives are slowly fading away. A little bit about the Tornadoes. They've been serving this community for over 55 years. Most of their coaches have been there for over 20. That's a huge commitment. I would suggest that in those years, they have served well over 6,000 players both in football and cheerleading. They, along with so many other volunteers, contribute to the climate and culture. A 6-day week for 4 months, and for some, 12 months out of the year. Their first objective is to develop young boys and girls into men and ladies. Grades, respect, behavior in school is always front and center and take priority over football skills and winning championships. Or as the coaches put it, life skills. Their financial challenges are great, and that's one of the reasons why I'm asking you to waive that policy for this year until we have a chance. We received, and I have the correspondence on May 2nd about this policy, which we never quite got to. They paid $500 a football helmet. To recondition their uniforms every year is well over $5,000. They earn this money one hamburger, one cup of coffee at a time, a little bit at the gate money. They're always scrapping for money. And this district sends them a letter into their season saying you're gonna be on the hook for custodians. I think this was ill-advised. These are Timberlane students, children of Timberlane taxpayers. And I've always taken the position, as I did when we first looked at that policy, that take that off my time, that
That is your time, Jack, sorry.
yeah, that last sentence.
All right, last sentence.
I would appreciate your support, and I would really like to move this so these folks can get on with doing the work that they have done for our children for a half a century. Thank you.
Next person is Jerry, is it Levitt?
Yep.
All right.
Well, as you can tell, I'm the president of Timberlane Junior Football. Excuse my appearance, I'm just coming out of practice myself, so I really need a shower and stuff. But basically, I'm here saying, as Jack is, talk to you guys, answer any questions you wanna know about the program, what we do. This added cost, if it comes to us, this is an unexpected cost. No matter what the cost is, it's gonna affect it affects the program, it affects what we can spend our money for our kids. We always say, whatever we bring in for money, we turn around and put it right back into the kids. Like Jack has said, our reconditioning costs, I mean, every year we're buying equipment, we're having, like I said, our equipment recertified. We made some big investments in uniforms, we made a big investment like last year, because we got tired of renting lights every year. That was costing us another $5,000-$6,000 every year. We were able to go out last year and buy 4 sets of floodlights that we now own. I mean, that cost us almost $11,000 just for those. But it also, on the back run, it now saves us $5,000 or $6,000 every year. So that's money now I get to put back onto the kids. As Jack said, we're about the kids. We're all about the kids. We want to make sure that every student that comes to us, every student athlete, boy, girl, whoever, we do the best thing for them. Teach them how to play the game right, teach them the right cheer moves. Like Jack says, developing these into young men and young ladies, so when they move on to the high school, it's something that you all can be proud of when they represent the district. Just like we expect them when we go to games and our stuff, that we expect them to represent the Tornadoes. And we also always talk about we're representing the district. This is you guys, when you put that uniform on, you're still Timberlane, no matter whether it's Tornadoes or Owls, you're still a Timberlane person. You're still expected a certain amount of, when you go somewhere to show respect to all the opposing teams, parents, players, whoever. And I'm just, like Jack said, it's 55 years we've been here. If we're forced to do this, that means I have to take something away from the kids. That means they don't get something, whether it's the end of year gifts we do for our 8th graders, or it's something that we can't go out and buy, like we need to go buy new cheer uniforms, we need to buy some more helmets and all this stuff. That's gonna be money that I can't go spend now because we gotta go pay for use of a field. I don't know if all you know this, but we do have 2 district members on our staff, Stacy O'Connor and Tom Black. We do have medical coverage at all our games, EMTs are always there. That's one of the requirements that we have to go through. That, EMTs, that's an additional $2,500, $3,000 a year that we're paying on that. I wish we didn't have to pay that, but that's something we have to do. Again, that's money I can't spend on the kids. So all these extra costs and, Anybody knows me, I'm about the kids totally. I've always said kids first, parents second, whether they like it or not, I don't care. I'm about the kids. I'm about going out there and showing our young athletes how to play football and do it the right way, and represent our district in a positive way. As someone who's a lifelong resident of this, I can tell you, even before the school was built, this was a social gathering spot for people. I don't know how many know this, but before the school was built, this was the Plastow Town Dump. So the dads of my era, this is where they met. This is where, for some reason, whether it's Saturday or Sunday morning, it's just amazing how they all showed up at the dump at the same time, took out their trash out, and then they would go talk about us, getting ready for football, getting ready for baseball, Little League, all this kind of stuff. So that's how I've always been. To me, this is what this is. This is the heart of the district. Sometimes it pains me when even nowadays when I drive through here and I look and I see nobody on the baseball field in the summertime. I mean, years ago, the kids out there playing balls, there'd be dads out there pitching to their sons, doing hitting practice. I go by there, I see nothing. I go by the track, I see nothing, and it pains me because this is supposed to be ours as a community. We all talk about being a community. We all talk about being together. Well, this piece of land here represents the whole district. This is what we're all about. This is, we all talk about Timberland. We talk about this. Sometimes I may get a little emotional about this because I love this community. But if we have to do this, like I said, this is something that we have to take away from our kids, and/or we have to pay, up our fees to have our parents cover the costs. Like Jack said, we try to operate in a shoestring budget. I don't want to be other programs that charge our parents $250, $300 just for their kids to come play football. So we're big on trying to keep our costs down. And also knowing the fact that there's certain costs every year that we have to deal with. So that's why we keep our registration. We have one of the lowest registration fees in the league. We got, we're only charging $150 for tackle. That doesn't even cover the cost of, that may cover the cost of a pair of shoulder pads, maybe practice pants, game pants, and that's it. Like Jack says, helmets aren't cheap now. Like I said, we had to replace 36 helmets at $300 a piece. Something we didn't really plan for, but because our numbers have increased so much over the last couple of years, we're almost back to, I want to say, pre-concussion and pre-COVID and all that. Our numbers are coming back because I believe that the people in the district believe in our program and what we do, and that we're here for the kids, and that we always try to do the right thing, by the kids, and make sure that when they leave our program that we're sending you all with student athletes. I don't want to keep you all the time and stuff, but like I said, this, when I see extra costs come to the program, I get a little crazy. Like I said, if I have to pay you guys to go play on something I already paid for in my taxes, that's something I got to take away from the kids now, and/or pass that off to my parents, which I don't like doing. Every year we always fight over registration fees, and I'm always a firm believer we keep where we are, we maintain our budget, we do our jobs correctly, and then we can keep our fees down and not become that $300 football team they have to go play for and stuff. So
Thanks, Jerry.
and again, like Jack said, he's always been a good supporter. Woody's big supporter of the program. Jack's been a part of the program. Woody's boys played for me. So it's I'm a big part of this community and doing what's best for everybody. And I just hope that this really follows that. Just go for it.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir.
So, thank you.
Thank you
all.
for coming down.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more delegates or individuals?
No.
Can I please get a motion to move the last 20 minutes of the 30-minute time to the end of the meeting?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain, 7-0-0. Okay. Current business, first thing on the docket is the
point of-
unsigned,
Point of order.
What?
I'd like to make a motion to move the subject matter of waiving the policy KF-R for the tornadoes for just this year, until we get a chance to review the policy. I can tell you clearly, that no one else gets charged for this, especially on the weekends. So I would ask the boards, after listening to Jerry and his heartfelt dedication to this district for half a century, that I'd like to motion that we move that.
So I'm gonna move you out of order and state that that needs to be brought up in new business. That way we can get through the current agenda items, and then that
Well-
also gives a chance for the administration to give any input that they want to. So we will discuss it, but it needs to be in other business.
Okay.
First thing on the docket is unassigned fund balance. Maria.
Hello.
Good evening.
Okay, so probably what I will say will make more sense.
Okay.
If you wanna pass it down, yeah. We'll help. Thank you.
Is it just one each?
I didn't mark that. Oh, yep.
So this might hold something when you say it, as opposed to what we used to have over here.
Thank you, Maria. Kind of, it breaks down. Oh, yeah.
These are all the same, right?
Yeah, you just need one of each piece of paper.
Here's the two extras.
Okay, so as you can see in the executive summary that was submitted for today, the total unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was 2.6 million. Out of that 2.6, we took the $500,000 emergency contingency fund that we have in the warrant articles that the voters vote for.
I'm sorry. Can you just go back to the, you said the undesignated fund balance was 2 million?
2.6.
Okay, I didn't hear you from that point.
Oh, it's okay, sorry.
I apologize.
It's fine. So the total unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was $2.6 million. Out of that 2.6, we took the $500,000 for the emergency contingency fund that was voted in the warrant articles in March. That left us with 2.1 million. Right now, we have a motion to retain another $500,000 that you guys made in June. So that leaves us with $1.6 million to on unassigned fund balance to give back to the taxpayers. So what I did in the long paper that you have, if you see the areas that are like highlighted, the first column I did the tax rate for the education, the local and the state education rate, and at the bottom is the total education rate for each of the towns. So the first column has $1.6 million. That's what the tax rate will be if we give back the 1.6 million. And then the next column is if you retain another $500,000, what will be with 1.1 million.
I'm sorry, would you explain that again?
So if you see at the bottom left of the
We're
long
talking about
page,
this sheet right here.
no, this one,
The big one?
Oh,
the
yes,
big
thank-
one,
now it makes more
on the
sense.
left bottom
Thank you.
corner,
Okay.
that left bottom section, that's the total education tax rate for each of the towns. So if we go with the $1.6 million, giving $1.6 million back for, so for example, Atkinson will be 11.3, Danville will be 1969, Plastow will be 1571, and Sandown will be 2672. If we give 1.1 million, if you guys decide to retain another $500,000, the rate will be in the next column. And then is the variance between those two. So that's the variance that will make in each of the towns to retain another $500,000.
So if we give all the 1.6 million back to the town people, then Atkinson is gonna be 11.03, Danville will be 19.69, Plastow will be 15.71, and Sandown will be $26.72.
Yes.
But if we decide to keep an additional 500,000, then it'll then shift to Atkinson as $11.10, Danville $19.85, Plastow $15.82, and Sandown $26.92. Okay. Yes, Jack.
So I think this is a great demonstration of how $500,000 impacts a tax rate. It's almost nothing, and sometimes when we're talking about moving large sums of money or investing large sums of money, I've always said it'd be nice to know how that impacts something. So I think this is great, Maria, I think you did a nice job here. Why are we looking at keeping another $500,000 though?
When you guys approved the 500,000, I was requested to do this to see how much
Oh, okay,
impact
okay.
we'll have to
All right.
maintain any additional funds.
Really to present the options.
But we, but we decided that it was prudent, and I thought you agreed that the 500,000 was the number, and that number is in case of an emergency, an unforeseen trainer, and that's kind of the number we came up with, right?
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
already
so-
motioned the 500.
And those numbers have already been done, that's the 500,000 plus the
Right.
500,000 we just did, so this is what's left over from that.
Right, all I'm saying is then, if we've already done that, then why are we looking at retaining another?
Yep, Bree, go ahead.
So I believe this past March, you guys passed you could take more to 5%, 2 million,
Right.
something like that. Because the thought was, what can you get with 500,000 when you're dealing with the entire district and boilers and yada, yada, yada. So the thought was, why don't we retain more than we historically have of the 500,000?
Well, we can't spend that 500,000, if I remember correctly, we can't spend that 500,000 unless we've expended is that
No,
wrong?
you can, we have to hold a public hearing explaining
Okay.
to the taxpayers why we
Okay,
want.
I get it.
But we
I
can,
get
we
Or
can.
some
Okay, I thought we could only spend that money in case.
Yeah, so the 500,000
So the
emergency is if
emergency fund, yes, but the retained fund
This
balance.
is different, okay.
Yeah.
Retained fund balance, you have to hold a public hearing explaining to the taxpayers what are we spending the money on, but that can be spent.
And this 500,000, I apologize, this
Nope.
500,000 can be used for anything in the budget.
You have to hold a public hearing.
Through, right. Okay, thank you.
So we need action on if we're gonna either A, retain $500,000 more. I see what you're, just give me a second, okay, I see. Either A, retain $500,000, some other amount, or give it all back. That's what you need an answer on tonight.
Yes.
Okay, Bree.
I just have a question, can any of this funding be used for special education that is going to cost so much more money because of the outsourcing?
What I'm hearing, the answer is yes, but it would still need to be,
I will have to check with legal, I'm not sure for like specific programs, like I know you have to hold a public hearing, but my immediate answer will be yes, but I would like to check with legal.
So let's do this, this is another exercise I always like to do. Is on a $300,000 home, and let's use Sandown or Danville, let's not use Atkinson, let's use Sandown. What is the impact for a $300,000 house?
You have to
And
know.
my computer, my
21
cell
cents
phone.
times 300,000.
What's that?
21 cents, right? By 300? Yeah, 21 cents. by
21
300.
cents times 300,
300,000.
times 300,000. No, but that's per 1,000, so it would
63
be,
bucks.
so $63. So that, for the people watching, that's good to understand how they would be impacted by something like that.
If they voted to spend it.
To spend it, right, yeah, good point.
That just gives them the option of spending that on something that we thought was important enough to make an exception and bring to the town, which we very seldom would do.
So, question is.
So I'm just have a question
Go ahead,
about this, so I understand this. So we did this once, we did the 500,000.
Yes. And the emergency contingency, so
Right.
yes, yep.
This is different 500,000. This is, so where does this fit at budget time? So,
Good question.
because if we have this $500,000 that we can spend or give back, right? When we set a new budget, most of that's tied to RSA anyway, right? So if we're missing this if we just gave this money back, but we do all the budget calculations and all the contracts are done and everything, won't that net out anyways? Like, won't we, like, the number will be the number? Or is this set aside as like an additional
This is set
500?
aside, it's a piggy bank emergency fund.
So this is a set
It's a
aside,
retained fund.
yeah, okay, and then That's so, it doesn't exist to the budget, formation of the
Correct,
budget.
so that we felt the need to break into that piggy bank emergency fund would have to go to and hold a meeting and say, hey, this is why we wanna break open this piggy bank, because we feel it's, worthwhile, we need to do X, Y, Z. Do you give us permission as taxpayers, as voters, to break open the piggy bank?
And there's already 500,000.
There's already money in the piggy bank.
Right, this is additional.
If we had had this piggy bank, let's say this year, and we had issues finding funds for new staff we wanted to hire, could we have gotten that from this fund if the public had voted for it?
It's a one-time thing, so it's a one-time fund, so you could do it specifically for 1 year and letting the staff know that is a 1 year
Or
position.
hiring bonuses or.
That is a 1 year position, but you can
If it's one time.
utilize one-time funds to perpetually hire somebody.
Justin.
Right, so does that make sense? Like you couldn't commit to a continuing contract with it, but perhaps it fits into contracted services, or perhaps it fits into the idea of hiring somebody for a year, which I think is really difficult to do, with that expectation that it's only for that amount of time. For our understanding, it's a doable scenario.
When you break it open, then it's tied to like a decision or an
Yes.
event. It's like, we need to do this,
Yeah,
break it.
it's like a one-time purchase thing.
Yeah, it's not like a,
And it's honoring a
it's not a
decision
cookie jar.
that
You
the
always keep
voters
going
made.
in, right? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Say there's a boil blew up somewhere.
yeah, okay.
Oh, I wanted to put a dome over the station.
Alright. Does anybody have any other questions?
I guess there's one question. So if it didn't get spent, if we didn't come forward with something we thought was urgent, that, did it stay there and then it could be used the following year, or does it go back?
No, it goes back to taxpayers.
Oh.
It lapses at the end of the year.
So the question is, do we wanna give all the 1.6 million back to, again, we already have $500,000 in a piggy bank if something were to happen, plus the 500,000 for the emergency, so there's already $1 million. So.
Which is the will of the voters.
Which was the will of the voters. So the question is, we need to make a decision, do we just give all the 1.6 million back, or do you all wanna retain any more? I'm more in favor, we've already got that was the will of the voters, of giving the 1.6 back. I know retaining 500,000 more isn't much of a variance, but the voters did give us a lot last year when we went to the voting polls, and I would like to be able to give this back to them. That's my opinion.
I think the advantage of that is if you did have an urgent need and you had to go to the town to say, we're in this situation, they would know that we were, coming to them with the need, and it would be something that get factored into upcoming, budget process.
And it would be in need of over $1 million, so that would be obvious to everybody, I think.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to return the entirety.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mark, second by Paul, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. Thank you, Maria.
These are awesome.
Yeah, I really like these, thank you very much.
I left the history because you can
Yeah.
see, like,
Yeah,
pay
it's helpful.
attention to the numbers before COVID and you will see.
Yeah.
When you see the numbers before COVID, you see that we're not that far behind. Sometimes are actually lower than before
Yeah.
COVID.
Right, can you go on the website?
Yeah, we can put them, sometimes information like this, I don't like to put because people can misinterpret it. So, I guess I can put it and say if they have any
We
questions.
should have shared the visual for the people at home, like during the meeting, you know.
Request to know.
Yeah, yeah,
Let them just do that.
if they want to, although they're getting them.
Thank you, Maria. These are really good.
Yes, thank you.
Good stuff.
All right, next thing on the list is school board budget. So this is our budget, people. So this is an opportunity for us to look at our budget, discuss it, and then I believe what Justin said is that after this, I think it goes to budget committee.
Yeah, so there's a rep, I think it's Mark, with the budget committee, and he'll kind of do that thing through. But in the prep meeting, we felt it was important for the entire board to kind of see what it has been and what it currently may be, and have any open discussion here to really give Mark some direction about what to take to the budget committee in that process.
Is there anything you wanted to speak to it, Mark?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm ears right now.
Bree?
I was just kind of more of a statement, shocked at the legal
Legal.
fees and the increasing, and I'm wondering, is that tied to contract years or new board members, training kind of thing, or like, do we have an idea of why?
We do.
So last year, we went through 4 union negotiations for contracts. So the big jump last year is basically because of that. I do have to say that since Chris Kellan started, he was very adamant that we did not contact attorneys unless it was strictly necessary. So that would have been a lot more with the phone negotiations if we didn't consciously make the effort not to contact legal anytime we needed. I mean, we try to find answers somewhere else before we contact legal. So that big jump is because of that. Usually we have 2 contracts, sometimes 1. Last year we had 4.
Makes more sense. Thank you.
It's a lot in 1 year, yep.
I'll give you guys a minute to look at it, even though you had it beforehand, I'll still give you all a few minutes to look at it, and that way if there's any questions, and then also we have Maria here and Justin, if we need to ask anything else.
Looks like there was a shift for treasurer.
Treasurer?
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
God, we spent a ton on conferences.
Right, am I right?
Yep,
I
you
just
are
had to
right.
zoom in.
Go ahead, John.
Is anyone able to speak to the significant
Increase of the treasurer.
increase in the treasurer amount from 23 to the
What account number is that?
2313.
2313?
Yeah, so 2023 it was voted as 9,200, but then for 2024, we're looking at 12,350.
The actual was 6,500
Right.
As of right now, yeah.
as of right now,
Yeah,
good point.
I'm not sure, I will have to look at the details behind it.
Okay.
So I would have 3 questions. It seems like the NHSBA went up substantially, $7,000 roughly. It's at the very end. Other expenses, I have no idea what that is.
What account is that, what is it?
I'm sorry, right before the grand total,
Oh, it says school board dues, it's
The
20,
School Board Association.
yeah, that looks like that went up 7. Well, it actually went down 7 and then back up 7.
Well, it has been 18,000.
It looks
It
like
says
it's
11,
trending down.
last year it says.
no. Yeah, so Jack, so voted in 2023, it was $18,000. Right now, we've spent out $11,242.44. They're putting back in 18, so that line item
Okay.
did not change. It's been that way since
Since
Okay.
2022.
What's just too quick, what's other expenses and other school board services? What does that
So-
what comprises those 2
That is like the board discretionary fund. What has come out of that is the presents for board members that leave, that the chairs that leave, we buy the presents from there. It has been used for the retiree gifts, the retirees gifts, and the celebration for the retirees. Anything that the board, any presents or any additional fees, or for example, last year, the printing of the ballots for some reason went through almost double, I think more than double. So we have to pull money out of that account to pay for the ballots because the printing company that prints them, which is a specialized printing company, doubled the price on us.
It's the cost of paper, I can tell you what that was.
So
It's true.
we don't, so unexpected expenses that,
Flexible account.
Okay, alright, now, you see some of these accounts and you don't know what they're about.
Yeah, no, good, they were all good questions.
is that you?
An actual, or?
Yeah.
Alright, so,
Yeah.
let me just look at that treasurer one again, because that's.
Yeah, so Maria, I think right now the only one to come back to would be the treasurer one. If you could just figure out the details of why it
Yeah,
got
let me see.
from that to the current amount that it's at
Yeah,
now.
because I know the fee that we pay her. I don't know if it was something specific, like registering her or something. I can definitely look into that.
Yeah, if you would, that would be
Thank
great.
you.
Bree, did you have a question?
Just on the supplies board and information access fee, only because we've spent nothing for the past 3 years and then almost 5,000 this year. So I was just wondering.
Is that on the,
second
supplies?
page?
Yeah, yeah.
What account
Fourth
number
and
is that?
fifth down.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. 610643.
Supplies for the board, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
I was like, is that like these tables?
Is this on what page too?
It's the second page. It's the 1, 2, 3.
So you see
Fourth one down.
zeros all
Food
across
supplies.
except this year.
So that could have been some kind of software. You know what, the Chromebooks.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense,
Yeah.
yep. And then is that also the same for the information access fee?
That's the information access fee, is the 4,700 is probably a Chromebook.
Okay.
So, okay.
The
Alright.
$1,000,
So that was a one-time and
yes,
Makes sense.
which is a lot less than what we were spending in ink and paper.
I know, right?
Excellent.
Does anybody have any other questions about this? So I think we're good for it to go to budget then, and we just really wanna just know about the treasury, just why it went up. But I think as long as it's justified, I think we're okay with it.
Yes.
Okay. Do we need an action on this? We don't need a motion or anything,
No.
do we?
It says action /
Okay.
informational,
Alright,
I don't think we do.
alright, great, cool, thanks. And then,
so we can give them an update on that and
Okay.
and then move it.
Keep this.
policies. We have 4 for our first read, and is that one big policy for a second read?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Let's be sure.
Yeah. So we 4 for first read is IIB, which is class size. The change recommendation is edits to class sizes. Policy IKFC is graduation of home education students. The changes and recommendations are recommended to repeal. This policy is obsolete based on the existence of IHBG, which was revised in 2022. We also have policy IHBG, home education instruction. The changes are edits to section B to make notice of withdrawal.
To be required in writing.
Okay, I was like, what? Oh, that
Just
should
to
be,
be-
that should be an O instead of B.
Yes.
That's what I got. And then policy JICD is student discipline and due process. And the changes to that are removal of requiring a 24-hour notice to parents of temporary reassignment or detention. And that's that. Does anybody have any questions about these policies? Bree?
on policy, is it II or 11?
I think it's II.
IIB, just at the very end, it says if the class size is exceeded, that the board will seek approval to add a paraprofessional support. I just think we shouldn't
Pigeonhole.
exactly the exact person to support help. Maybe it's another teacher, maybe it's an intern, maybe it's just another
So
body.
instead of say para, put like an individual or something that gives a
Additional
more flexibility.
education support.
Something,
Yeah.
something more open.
Good call.
We can bring that back to policy.
That's a good catch, no, that's good.
I think that you're talking about specifically, that's what it would be, whether it would be a special education or a regular education paraprofessional, that's what it would be to support the teacher in a room where the numbers were exceeded. It wouldn't be a one-on-one, it wouldn't be, it would be something that's pretty specific. That's what we use for that. So I think that's why it says paraprofessional.
But is that pigeonholing us in? So for example, if we exceeded by 7 students, would we then be tied into getting a paraprofessional rather than looking at getting another teacher, especially if we look at the NASDAQ numbers and we have more students coming in for the next year?
I think if we're talking about something that is immediate, for an overload of what we anticipated there that went over this limit. So even if it happened, you really recognize early enough to hire somebody to give support to a teacher, we're not gonna be going over a state limit, you know, but we're talking about something that goes over this limit. You're saying we're looking at a paraprofessional to give the teacher support with, you know, consideration of, you know, their load.
I guess does our current paraprofessional, what's the word I'm looking for? Job description cover any and all people that you could utilize? The job description? That's just my concern.
Yes, but at different levels we have, right, so at the secondary level, primarily paraeducator support is through special education. The elementary level, we have kindergarten assistants who are regular education paras. We also have some who are assigned for intervention, but the general job description is flexible, that we would have that capacity, right, to do that. But our current assignments are directly connected to requirements in IEPs, right? And students' requirements and whether they need a one-on-one, a two-on-one, with the exception of those instances where I talked about the para support, right? We have regular ed paras also who work in our libraries, so other than that, we have flexibility.
And again, this is just a first read, so we could talk about it in policy just a little bit more about that to make sure.
Yeah, and Bree, we did consider removing that. We consciously kept it in because, to Dawn's point, we felt that that's where we would go.
In every situation.
We're willing to bring it back for consideration, but we did process through that, so.
Well, and in terms of every situation, if we're 7 students over, right, I don't know, I would.
Or if there's a COVID
Poke around a
baby
little bit
boom and this is for third grade, and we don't have a big second grade
Yeah,
class
yeah.
coming in, and then maybe
See,
it would
I don't-
make sense.
I don't talk like
But
this.
because we get enrollment updates on a regular basis.
Yeah. Could I just wanna clarify that clause is, should additional students enroll after the second meeting in August.
Yeah.
So it's very specific to that situation. So if you look at some of the other revisions that are proposed, we've, in addition to the changes in the number, there's language that's been added to back up our timelines on when we begin informing you. It provides provisions for regular updates all the way through August. But after that second meeting in August, the school year has started. So the likelihood of a budgeting for posting and hiring a classroom teacher is really minimal. And so it might be more advantageous to provide para support, and potentially, if we have that flexibility, post until we can hire. But this gives us the ability to support those classrooms with a paraeducator, to request your authority for you to give us approval to go ahead and do that. So it's specific to that situation.
Because we will be getting regular enrollment updates on a regular basis, so this would be if a
No, I.
family of septuplets moved in. Because of the COVID baby boom. No, I'm joking, but you know what I'm saying.
For the rare circumstance, a family
Yep.
moves into town, one of the members of the household is a teacher, they wanna be in Timberlane, they're willing to take a para up. I'm just wondering why, instead of just saying educational support or something more, a general in term, 98% of the time it will be a para that you're looking to hire. But does having para only in there, does that limit your flexibility? If you're both telling me no and that I'm missing something and being paranoid, that's fine.
At policy, the discussion was that it provided the flexibility. That was my understanding as a
At policy committee, that's what we
yes,
talked
that it
about.
actually allowed for more flexibility.
Okay.
We can bring it back.
Yeah, we can bring it back. Again, this is just a first read, so.
As opposed to a teacher assistant. you know.
Or educational professional.
Yeah.
What's that mean? That's nebulous, it could mean anything, right? That gives them all the flexibility in the world.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but part of it was terminology too, as though teacher assistant is more than likely called a paraprofessional now in this district. So it was almost also a
Right,
terminology
That was back
consideration.
in the
Yeah.
80s,
Correct.
we called them teacher assistants,
Yes.
in the 90s too.
Yeah, just to reflect some of the discussion that happened in
Yeah.
policy. It was more a terminology, what reflects our current practice in terms of identifying roles, right? I don't wanna overspeak, but that's the
Again,
discussion
we can talk about it some more, but again, it's just a first
Fine.
read, so.
But good, we have all these questions too in policy, so it's good.
Any other questions about the first read policies? Could I get a motion to accept them? for first
So
reading?
moved.
Second.
Motion by Shauna, second by Jack. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, 700. And then we have one behemoth of a policy. It is GBED/ADC/JICG.
And Fran will now come to the mic and summarize it.
Which is prohibitions regarding use and possession of tobacco products, e-cigarettes, and e-liquids in and on school facilities and grounds. And the changes and recommendations, no changes since first read, reflects the New Hampshire School Board Association sample policy. This is a required policy that TRSD does not currently have and corresponds with the policies ADC and JICG.
Can't you just do like, just say no? That's a really easy way to summarize
Need a
it, right?
mnemonic.
Just say no.
There you go.
Talking about data.
So again, as it states, we don't have this, so that's why this is here, because we need one. And there's not been any changes since the first read. There's no questions, could I get a motion to accept this policy for second read?
So moved.
Moved by Shauna, seconded by Jack. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, 700.
Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
make a request of the policy committee? I would love
Yep.
to look into creating, and I think we have one, but I don't know how extensive it is, a cell phone policy. I just think a lot of
So
information.
actually, that was, not to cut you off, but that was actually discussed today in policy, and they are currently working on one.
Perfect.
Yeah, so.
There's so much
To
new
be continued, it should be
information.
coming soon.
Yeah,
Yep,
Thank
it's
you.
being worked on.
But yeah, absolutely, we are.
great.
Okay, yeah, Bree.
Sorry, I think I missed this, I didn't know we were grouping all of them together for the first read.
No, go ahead.
Why are we removing notifying parents for the 24 hours?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Justin.
So two things, it's one, it's not a statutory requirement, and second, it would really kind of bind administrators, so that would mean that any time that you're removing a child from any circumstance, that we would need to make that call home. In some situations, just compel us to do that immediately, and the parent contact would be the next type of piece. So as a practice, I wanna be very clear with everybody and the public on the board, we do that. And we do it in the reasonable timeline to keep parents in the loop and what is happening. But to be able to do it before it happens is not always a realistic operational component that a school administrator is gonna be able to execute.
So, I guess, whenever I hear parent involvement, kind of a hot spot for me. Can I understand the question and what it related to, because I kind of heard the answer, but I didn't hear the question. I apologize.
Removing for detentions and stuff, removing this shall be,
Oh.
parents shall be notified at least 24 hours prior to serving the detention.
Or temporary
Temporary
reassignment. So in other words, if a child needs
That
to be,
that
yeah,
makes sense to me. Okay,
there's an unsafe situation, they
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
be
I-
removed quickly,
yeah,
they
no,
can't
I
call
get it.
24 hours in advance.
we gotta have faith and confidence in our administrators to make the right decisions in a split minute. And
And then communicate those decisions.
and then hindsight's always 20/20, but it is what it is.
Like you have detention, afterwards you get in touch with your parents and ask.
Well,
Like, right,
parents can give you one.
my parents would.
Oh, yeah, mine too. My sister was the reason.
She's not here to speak to. Okay.
So leave it to pay for it at 3 o'clock.
Okay, any other questions about the policies that
no,
we had?
that's-
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. The next thing that we have on here is for New Hampshire School Board Association proposed resolutions. This is for Kim McCormick, who is actually not here. And this is for how she needs to vote, I believe, at the next assembly, but I believe we need really her here. Can we move this to next board meeting so we can actually ask her what would that be, if it's?
Yeah, I just wanna pull up when the date.
Yeah, please.
So the the delegate assembly is Saturday, October 14th, so if we did put it on the
Okay,
agenda
yeah,
for the
we could do it
September 21st meeting,
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
that would be good.
Okay.
Do I need to make a motion to table this, or are we good?
Good. You wanna make a motion just to table it to next meeting?
Okay, I make a motion to table the NHSBA proposed resolution presentation to the next board meeting on the 21st.
Got a motion?
A second.
Second by Bree. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
So much reading
And
for that.
abstained. I know, 7-0.
You can explain it to us.
You were ready.
It's good though.
And then retirement celebration.
Just wanted to recognize that we're gonna have a retirement celebration, I believe, for maybe 3 cycles of retirees through the Timberlane Regional School District. There's a retirement committee that's been working hard on it. Plans are solidified for September 27th at 4:30 PM at Cervino Vineyards. And Sandy and I are both looking forward to, and I know a lot of other administrators as well in terms of representing their buildings, of being present and kind of giving thanks and kind of celebrating the evening with a whole lot of folks.
That's really good.
These are all my friends.
You definitely need to go.
These are all my friends.
So yeah, so I believe all the
All your
board is
names.
invited to it, so. All right. Administrative report.
Cool, so I have 4 things, and I think Sandy's gonna have a couple things to go over well. The first that I wanna touch on and be really clear about is just the idea of bus transportation throughout the district. I know the letters have done this, but just wanna really clearly recognize for families that it's an adverse impact for you, and it is an extremely difficult thing to organize when it has not been reliable or timely for many of you. And in some situations, you know, we're challenged with kind of safety as well. So those 3 components kind of rolled into that. So it's not lost on us. The principals are doing a really good detailed job of submitting kind of daily reports, really twice a day, one after the AM route and one after the PM route. That then informs kind of 2 different levels of conversations I have with first student to help address anything that's immediate. And it also allows the continuation of conversations about long-term solutions with first student to continue. A couple of things that remain issues are staffing, and then that cascades into the training of the new staff. So we are continuing to press the need to have those people trained and up to speed. A lot of them are new drivers, and new people to the community. So even the geographic landscape in the schools they're visiting are new. So to really get those folks up to speed, as they were doing prior, but we just need more of that. Moving forward, there's really 3 concrete things we're gonna be continuing to explore with first students starting tomorrow. One is the opening of the contract as it currently exists and discussing any penalties, or maybe some renegotiation of those dollar figures in terms of the service provided and rendered versus what was projected. The second piece of that is to have some more input on the actual formation of the routes, and that is really informed what I hear from principals and families that contact me that enable us to make some real practical suggestions about how to reroute some things or how to group things, kids differently. And lastly, we're starting to reach out and communicate with other transportation companies, engage their availability to meet some of the more priority needs that we have there. So for some families, we may be reaching to you in the very short term and saying we have a different transportation alternative. Are you willing to explore that? And we'll put you in contact there and move you in that direction. Those are the 3 pieces that we're moving with forward.
Jack.
I know this has been challenging and especially challenging for you, Justin, but I wanna thank
My
you.
kids are getting to school on time in Manchester, New Hampshire, so.
I wanted to thank you for always picking up the phone when I call you so I can talk to the parents and communicate to the parents. 2, for reaching out to the parents the way you have been, because the communication, I think, you know, it's kind of like a waitress can make a good for a good experience with a bad meal, right? So I think you've done an admirable job of all of that, and I wanted to say thank you because your door has been open to me. And a lot of times people don't understand that when they don't understand all that, even though there was a little bit of disarray, you did your best under some very tough set of circumstances, so thank you on behalf of the people from Atkinson, even though, you know, and the only comment I would make is that next year, a week or 2 before school starts, you know, lesson learned and you know, we'll be on top of that, all of us together, so, but thank you.
I had one thing, the kids that are late because of the bus, they're not getting marked tardy, are they? So no one's getting marked tardy. Alright, that's all I had.
I just wanna talk a little bit from the Atkinson perspective, too. I wanna apologize in a way, to all the parents and kids that, you know, have had very long bus rides, late arrivals, late drop-offs at the end of the day. It certainly was not, you know, by design. It was something that we, like I said, hopefully we've gotten some lessons learned that we never let this happen again, we really dropped the ball away on this situation collectively, whether it's first student, us, but I will say that the parent feedback was very respectful and the principal feedback was out of this world respectful. I really think people have tried, to kind of own the problem and work with it and try to get it better. And so that I have faith that, we're doing, kind of late, the things we need to do. Whether it's training early, bus routes practiced, timed, more than one person doing, really making sure that our bus drivers know where they're going. Can't be asking students for directions to the school, right? That they have an understanding of what behavior pieces they have to reinforce and how. That they're trained, maybe they get teachers to help them, maybe they get administrators to help them, maybe we ride buses where we know we've had a history of problems, whatever it is. I think we have to be more ready moving forward.
If there's no other things on transportation, I'll shift to Alice. And just to recognize that again, we communicated out to the families and the staff that we're kind of in the year 2 of implementation. This is the year that we begin really engaging students in that process and families in that as well. So what we have coming up through the month of September is getting to PTA meetings and having school and district administrators opening up and inviting parents in to have an Alice segment there. In the letter, there were some things that people can review in reading materials and videos that they can watch. I'm also just reiterating the last 2 bullets there about calling the schools and talking to the school administrators. If folks have questions, or also calling me here at the central office and connecting with the district administrator. This is something that we believe in. It keeps kids safer without it, and it's going to continue to unfold. So we want people to understand that not only is this something that kids and families can use in schools, they can use it in their community. When they're at the grocery store, when they're at a large event. It is about situational awareness and then transferring that power to the individual to communicate information so they can make decisions in real time for their own safety. So that's going to continue to roll out. Again, I want to reiterate, we're going to get to kids the week of the 25th across the district. There will be a second letter for families coming from this office, and really it's going to be some sample questions that we would encourage you to talk to different kids at different developmental stages as samples for you, but also sharing some of the materials that kids will be seeing or reading or talking and discussing throughout that week as well, so parents and families can get their hands on those as well. So. Alice, last thing I want to reiterate in terms of budget committee, we started the walkthroughs last night over at the main campus. There's 2 more opportunities coming up for people. They're open to the public. We would highly encourage you to come and see what some of the facilities look like. We're going to be visiting Sandown and Danville on September 12th. I believe that tour will start at Sandown at 6 p.m. Then move over to Danville afterwards. And then on September 14th, we'll be visiting Pollard and then Atkinson. So opportunities to see 4 of those buildings. And in Sandown, it's both Sandown schools and then over the Danville. So again, come out and see what the schools look like. And lastly, opening day, we had every school reported in excess of 96% of their students that were projected to be in attendance with them that day. That is remarkable. It is a state showing about some of the preparation and some of the outreach that schools do beforehand. It's a credit to the people that are involved in the registration process for people that can be really chaotic and messy for families that are coming in and out over the summer. So we're really, really proud of that number. It's also despite the bus challenges that we face with the access. So to have 90% of the kids attended and accounted for that we expected is, everyone should feel really good about that in the community.
I also have some really positive news to share. We first want to recognize and let you know that one of our high school physical education teachers, Helena Bird, who I think you all had an opportunity to meet last spring when she came with the Girls Lacrosse team. She has been recognized as the 2023 New Hampshire Adaptive Teacher of the Year by the New Hampshire Association of Health, PE, Recreation, and Dance. So we are thrilled for Helena and super proud of all that she does with all of our students. She teaches unified physical education, and if you ever want to get a smile on your face, go visit that classroom. It's wonderful. So we're thrilled for her. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. She will be recognized in November at the annual awards ceremony at the annual conference up in Waterville Valley. So I know Mr. Fantasia is planning to be there to also show a sign of support. So I just want to extend our congratulations to Helena and thank her for all of her work. So kudos to her. And then secondly, just wanted to bring you up to speed this week. Our sixth graders have started their annual trip to Camp Lincoln. So I think we talked about that last year. Our first team went for their first day today. They're going back again tomorrow. Our next two teams are going 2 days and then 2 days the following next week. If you're not familiar with that and you're free, I'm sure they would be happy for you to stop by and visit. They do 6 different stations, so ranging from ropes courses, archery, they get out on the water in the kayaks, they do some team building, a hike through the forest. So it's a really great opportunity for our students who are coming from the 4 towns to transition together, to make new relationships, to hang out with their teachers in a very different environment than the classroom. And it really helps with the 6th grade transition. So it's a hot day today, but I talked to Mr. Woodworth, Dan Woodworth, who is 6th grade assistant principal this year. He was there today and said although it was a really hot day, it was a great day for the kids, so awesome.
It's incredible, as much as things change, they stay the same.
Yeah.
It's a great experience.
Thank you, Dixon, Sandy, for that update. Another thing we have is a personnel report. We have one that we need to make a motion on.
Make a motion to approve the professional nomination of Jacob Wilcox, science teacher at Timberlane Regional High School.
A motion to have a second.
Second.
Second by Dawn. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstain. 7-0-0. Alright. Fran, we're just gonna go ahead and read the electronic ones into the record and then we'll do the vacancy.
Yeah, perfect.
Electronics.
Okay, reading into the record professional nominations for Celestino Basile, Spanish teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, as well as the professional resignation of Gail Pellegrino, music teacher at Atkinson Academy.
Yeah, there's a few there.
As well as the professional nomination of, oh my goodness, Mandy Schleiser, forgive me, Mandy, grade 5 teacher at Pollard Elementary.
There's one more.
Goodness. And the professional nomination of Catherine Bannister, grade 4 teacher at Sandown North Elementary. Welcome to Timberlane.
Fran with the vacancy reports.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of change since the last time, although we did hire we have the hot science teacher that will come on. We don't have a lot of vacancies except for special ed, that really hasn't changed unfortunately. And I believe we might have even hired a social worker. I came across my desk today, which is exciting, so we're getting there.
Yeah. And kudos to Kelly for interviewing people night and day for the special ed.
Night day,
Thank you.
Yeah, well, all staff, but I know Kelly was doing it on weekends and all throughout the night and so your hard work is definitely noticed, so. Alright, well, stinks we don't have more, but I'm grateful for the ones we do have, so.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Fran before she leaves?
Oh, sorry, I was just wondering about the administration and financial analyst. Maybe someone leave. What do you think? Did someone leave?
The financial data analyst position.
That's the financial analyst position that was approved last year. It's approved last year.
Okay.
Bree, did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. I was like,
Okay. Alright. So that's it for personnel and the vacancy report. The other thing we have is committee reports. I'll start with Bree this time, Bree, the committee reports.
we are so excited to have a meeting for strategic planning committee and discuss strategic plan now that the school year's back in it.
When is your next meeting set?
I would love to know.
Oh, you don't know?
Yep.
Okay,
To be determined.
Yes.
to be determined, okay.
This year.
How often should strategic plan meet?
I think when that team gets together, they can
They
determine
determine,
Who is on that team for strategic plan? You and?
from the board.
No, besides
Yes,
the
so it's
board.
Bree and.
It's Bree and.
No.
So there's two.
Yep, it'll be myself and Sandy and a representative from the rest of the admin team.
Okay. So soon.
Soon.
Alright. Mark?
So Justin did a great job talking about the tours via the BudCom. Again, the community, please visit every facility, even if it's not in your hometown, because we are a community and our dollars and the investiture in our children is a community project, and you know it helps to know where your money's going. We also met earlier this week. This group here who were involved with the TTA negotiations, trying to get things in line to make certain that this can be as smooth a process as possible.
Kim McCormick and I will be participating in the first wellness committee meeting. We meet quarterly? Ish. That's what I have scheduled, on October 11th, and policy committee met today. We were able to really worked efficiently today, which is fantastic, and got through the entire agenda, some of which will be reviewed at policy for a second read there and brought forward here. We will also take the feedback that we received today from everybody here, but if anybody has additional feedback that you want to bring forward to us, we'd be happy to present it to policy committee, and that is all I have.
So for me, safety committee, we are meeting again next week on Tuesday. Again, the ALICE stuff, getting out to kids and staff, again, that day of the 25th, correct?
Week of the 25th.
Week of the 25th. Again, just to reiterate what Mark said about the TTA, we are currently working through some things, very optimistic, feel really good about this group and really hopeful. Other than that, for me, that's all I have. Paul?
I'll let Don provide more intelligent, but I,
Set the stage high, set it high.
Curriculum committee,
yeah, curriculum and assessment, we had a lot of review over some of the grade 6 social studies curriculum changes, K through 12 science, and 6 through 12 math, geometry, probability, stats, trigonometry. And some of this will come, I believe, we decided to the board to the next meeting, and there is some urgency behind this so that they can move on and get this out to, get this out to everybody. But more, and also we have forming a subcommittee on the objectionable materials policies, which we probably don't have a really strong and robust policy for that, whether it's library materials or course materials, so. But before Dawn goes, I will say this, I walk out of that, that's my third one, I walk out of there smarter, but not hard in my case, but every time. And from Sandra obviously, and I don't get all the names, but Jen was there, and Mark was there, and Lucy was there, and just the depth with which they and their team of teachers are developing around competencies and the learning and the structure that we have to be compliant, number one, and to present something that's pretty simple, not only to the teachers and the educators, but to the students. Like you said, okay, what's your syllabus say, or what's your rubric say? They really put a lot of effort into this. It'd be easy to take this and not own it and just be like, well, this is what I gotta teach. They told me I gotta teach this. Like you were saying years ago, you look at the table of contents of the book and like, well, I guess that's our syllabus. So, yeah, it was many years ago, it was 1980. So, but yeah, that's not the case. So for anybody that's listening, there are some teachers and some folks in charge of curriculum and wrapping this around competencies and making sure the children learn what they have to learn in a way that they should be learning it, that really care about this stuff. I was in awe the whole meeting, to be honest with you. Yeah, just some awesome people. So, and some of that will come to the board for first read next time. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, you're very thorough. I'll say this, that the teachers did a lot of work. This came through them, their energy to say, wait a second, we've worked on this for a number of years, basically. With our experience now of having tried to work with this, let's make it really accurate to what we know is worth doing and make it clear so that whether you're a parent, a kid, a teacher, you look at what the understandings are, the things that you're after, the competencies as written. It answers why we're doing things the way we are. I thought it was crystal clear. It was well written. every grade level, and the leadership, you know, was, we should be proud of them. They did a great job.
Jack? Nothing?
Jack,
I knew you were gonna say that. I was sitting here saying, I got nothing, I know she's gonna fall off of
He
her
wants to book
chair.
his time for later.
I know, you're
He's saving it.
holding out for later, I get you.
No, I literally had no committee meetings, I have nothing.
New business will not be short.
When my wife asked me for cash, I give her the same answer. You know?
Don, did you have anything else to add, or?
I mean, it was very comforting to see how much attention they put to national and state standards, and how consistent they are, like, in terms of the way they went about their work. I think that it makes you realize that this was not like some happenstance, bunch of people got together over the summer and said, what do we got, what are we gonna do? That this is kind of the culmination of a lot of work over time.
So let me ask this about curriculum, if you don't mind. Do you wanna go first? So,
Well, wait, does anybody else have anything else for committees?
Well, that was what I was gonna.
You do, okay, well, Jack and then Bree.
all you needed was a whistle. Are we setting goals relative to proficiency rate? Like we have all these things that we roll out for curriculum, but do we have like, okay, we're here and we would like our goal, are we goal setting around that stuff?
Yes, yeah. At the school level, at the district level, yes.
Right, which would reflect where we sit at the state level and okay, I would like to understand that a little better when anyone has the time.
And to be honest, you will be able to understand it better because of the work that's being done, in my opinion, and some of the simplification of taking a bunch of competencies that down to a simpler structure that are very clear of, you know, this class and these skills are being taught in this way. I mean, I could understand. I was reading, I'm like, well, I could do this. I can barely read. So I was like, it was pretty awesome. It was just, I'm like, I get it. I know what they're trying to teach. I know how they're trying to teach it, and it was very well written, like Don said.
I just kind of keep falling back, cause what I think lay people see are these reports as to where everybody sits and stand, and that's kind of how I measure correctly or incorrectly. So I'm just wondering about that. There's no question in my mind as the level of competency within our staff, right? So the question is, that's all. Thank you.
I feel that the energy committee can be dissolved. I was told that has to be done in a board meeting. Is there any reason why that committee still needs to stand?
Oh, I
Put your name on something.
I don't
This is a
know.
good night.
That's a good question.
I
Let's
would
not
tell-
do it tonight,
Yeah,
cause
can
I
we
wanna
look
make,
into it?
I know, but can we do it, cause I wanna get some information beforehand, cause I'd hate to do it, not do procedure, or if there is a reason for it.
So the procedure is to make a motion here and then.
That's all we have to do?
It is because Energy Committee doesn't meet.
It was meant for, correct, and it was built for the budget for the capital like the huge 25 million thing for the energy improvement cost things and where would be most cost effective and EEI and researching and all that.
So
it was a like subset of
That committee
that.
was set in place before.
A long time
Right,
ago.
it was.
It
Yeah.
was like the last time I was on the board, so at least 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Jack,
Who's supposed to be on that committee? Besides a board member, who else
me and
is?
Carl,
The committees are more than just
Oh.
two people.
that's what's listed.
Well,
That's it?
this is where I think the committee could be relevant as we look into technologies like the solar, other things like that. We can always dissolve it and then redo it, but I think that's a moot point. If you guys decide there's no action to be taken at the time, then fine, you get to control your own destiny on that when you meet. But as I see it, you're talking about solar around the district. We had a presentation last week about solar here, so we may need the group, and I think it should be bigger than you and Kyle, to go out and explore opportunities outside the scope of what we're doing here. That's just my
I think,
opinion on it.
we should probably make it a subcommittee of the facilities committee and keep it focused on when it's needed, to populate it as needed to get the, the specific goals met.
Trying to contribute, that's all I'm saying.
No, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
you contribute.
It's good, it's good.
Come to curriculum. We have cookies.
No, she writes her own.
No.
Sorry,
Her job.
We don't have cookies, but we could do that. Yeah.
I was like,
Hey, bring comes with
cookies and
cookies
safety?
or whatever you like.
All right, any other committee business at this time? All right, other business, does anybody have any other business? Come on
Nope.
down, Jack.
So I'm gonna make a motion, God, what was the, and I get all kinds of documentation, I wanna keep this as clean and easy as possible. I'll make a motion to waive policy KFR for the tornadoes for this year until we have a chance to review that policy in its totality and make some good decisions around it, cause like I said, that's the motion, and then if someone wants to second it, we can discuss it.
I'll second it so that we can talk about this.
It's fine. So motion's been made by Jack, seconded by Don.
So the way I've seen this is beyond the tornadoes is, again, I look at the strategic plan, I agree with everything as it speaks to getting people in here, participating, volunteerism. I don't like the way this was done, I have the letters of correspondence even to Jerry. I think to do this as their season, as they're into their season, I think was not appropriate. In addition to that, they do an incredible service to this district and the kids. And like I said, guys die on that team as coaches. That's how long they're there, from the time their kids are in the program till the bitter end. So I think this is the least we can do. I can tell you, it's been suggested that other teams require custodians during the weekends. My son played AAU baseball here for 3 years, never had a custodian every weekend during the summers or every other weekend. And what we're talking, just so we understand it, it's probably a total of 4 weeks, 1 day, because they play every other weekend here. They don't play every weekend here. They go away. So it could be 3, it could be 5 weeks, I'm not sure. But that is a very small price to pay for people who are current taxpayers, 100% students of the district. This campus is, as Jerry had stated, always been perceived for everybody in the district, every student. And I can tell you that when my children played soccer and baseball outside of this district on teams like in Salem, Michelle Park, Salem High School, no one asked them what their address was. They were just on the team. So this is part of our responsibility, it's part of what we do. And as far as the financial impact to the district, we have an $83 million budget. It has been suggested that that stipend is to deflect the cost to the district. If we wanna talk about cost to the district, we sit down and have a serious discussion about it. But it shouldn't come at the cost of third graders wanting to play or cheer on a Saturday afternoon.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a question about, and I generally agree with everything you said there. But it was indicated that they're the only ones that have to pay and other people are using them without paying, is that true? I mean, like, we'd have to be, well, 2 things, we'd have to be consistent regardless of what we did. And second, if they've been doing this for how long?
55 years.
And we just kind of gave them this bill like in the middle?
It's been kind of an ongoing thing that's been boiling up. I kind of anticipated something like this,
Okay, and I
but
don't need to know the
yeah,
total details, but it seems-
55 years,
Yeah,
nothing.
it seems like that would be
Hold on.
a little unfair on that, and if that's true, that would be unfair to the program, I think.
Don.
So many ways to approach this, but over time, what that group has done is helped us to have facilities like we have. They've contributed. If you look at the concession stand down there, you look at the announcing booth, you look at the track, you look at the football field, the way it's ground, everything like that. The input from that organization throughout probably is worth $100,000 or more. Just in donated time, work,
And money.
materials. His brother-in-law, Dave Nye, worked 2 full summers, away from his business doing construction work for us, to get this thing together out of, he is one of the coaches, And there's so much volunteer work that donated, from high school coaches, high school programs, and community members, a track group from the boosters, a track group, track from 2 Million Regional Athletic Complex Committee that was headed by Lions and, from the three towns that had Lions groups at the time. Just tremendous amount of work donated. It flies in the face of respect to say, we're gonna hit you now because we're having trouble, because we're having a hard time, because all the things we have going on in our facilities guy is getting overwhelmed with projects and commitments, and it's, he's got a staff, he's gotta, commit to do, whether it's cleaning a bathroom, fixing a thing that's broken or whatever, there's stress involved. So I can see where this happens. I think we should take this opportunity to look at this and say, all right, how can we help Carl, and how can we, help the people that, we're doing this all for?
Donna?
So I have 3 things to say. Obviously, I grew up in this town, so I understand that this organization is part of the tapestry and the beautiful history of our communities. Although I was not a cheerleader or a football player, but I love them all, and I know several of them right now. Go Tornadoes! And I mean that. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that this policy has been recently revised. I was on policy committee when this was discussed, and there was a lot of conversation around fees and things of that nature. And so after stating that, the third thing I'd like to say is there any information from our administration regarding this policy? Because it's been a year since we talked about this, but I do recall conversation around this and rationale and reasonings for this policy to be put in place as something that wasn't done in prior practice. And I would like to hear that well-rounded piece of information. We've heard from you guys. I love this organization. Obviously, Mr. Lovett, thank you for coming tonight and speaking passionately, but I think it's good to have a well-rounded understanding of why this happened. I don't know if you guys can speak to that.
I'd certainly be happy to. So through the policy conversations and getting it into print, one of the things that we talked about here and felt strongly about was that anyone who serves our kids should not be paid or charged a fee to kind of use the facility. However, when there are organizations that are accessing the facility on a time that we already don't employ someone here managing the facility, like a custodian, that we would not want to pass that cost off to the district. So if anyone, the Timberlane folks or anybody else was going to use a spot and it was on a Sunday, and we were going to pay for a custodian to be on site that otherwise would not be there on site, that is a cost that we felt comfortable asking the organization to pick up. And it's not just this organization. The message was that should apply for all organizations across the board, that there should not be an incurred cost of the district to host these types of events. We're not looking to profit from these things. We're not looking to charge access fees or anything. We're looking to recoup the cost that it costs us to have personnel on site. To speak specifically to these folks, I don't have any information about any past history of monetary donations or support, or you're talking about concession stand and those things. Those are not things that I'm aware or have any information on. And the second thing I'd say is I also don't, this idea of consistency, Paul, that you raised, yes, it should be a standard that's applied to all groups, or let's not have a policy about it. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
So, I agree with you, the policy should be consistent, and when this was brought to our attention on May 2nd, we got a note about this policy advising us, here informational. I was of the opinion, and I still am of the opinion, if it is in-district nonprofit organizations, 100% kids from this district, that their tax dollars pay to use these assets as kind of we indicated we wanted to do on the strategic plan, not from a financial standpoint, but from a community standpoint. The for-profit, like a lot of the AAU organizations, should, and they will, and they want to, cause they're looking for fields. I mean, there are baseball teams out there that will pay $600 a game and wanna throw tournaments here all weekend. You're never gonna recoup the money that it costs to manage these assets, but managing these assets are already in the budget. I am not sure whether we have custodians here over the weekends, but other than picking up the garbage, and I think, again, this is about a collaboration between an organization that does incredible things for the kids and the administration. Hey, you guys, do you mind picking up all the garbage and throwing it in the dumpster before you leave? That's what we did as AAU teams, that was one of the agreements we had. We also left the fields better than we got them. We dragged them out, whatever. So it was always a symbiotic relationship to get the kids on the fields in the past. And I coached for the Tornadoes for a number of years, as I did with AYBS. We had a couple AAU teams down here, and my daughter played on the Timberwolves, another great asset and organization, and those kids are out here 5 or 6 teams a night, right? Picking a little spot where they can go and practice, little 7 and 8-year-old girls. Impact to the field. On average, they play 4 10-minute quarters a game, and out of those 4 10-minute quarters, there's actually 10 minutes, if you break it down, 10 minutes of actual playing time of 3rd and 4th and 5th graders. So that's how the numbers work out. So, like I said, this is, in my humble opinion, the right thing to do for all the right reasons, for everything we're trying to get accomplished here in this building.
So I have a question. The policy as stands, it's for any organization that wants to use our facilities, not just the football teams, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, and this fee is only on the weekend, right, where you don't have, or if it's later in the evening, when you don't have, that person's not contracted to
What we
work.
discussed was, yes, if we had a member already on site and on payroll, because that's what we needed as a district, we're not gonna pass off a cost that's already part of what's happening.
Okay.
But if it's an extra, and that's typically would be Saturdays and Sundays.
So if somebody wanted to use the facility on a Saturday, say all day, say the Timberland, what would be the cost for one day for the,
I think it's 64.
hold on, let the,
$35 an hour for a custodian,
$35 an hour, and how long are they normally there for?
12 hours.
And is that an overtime fee as well? Because, right, so that's overtime.
He said
We're paying them
64, he
overtime.
said they were gonna be charged 64
Maybe
bucks
there
an hour,
needs
so
to be
that's the
two.
double time that you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying,
right?
like, so,
Yeah,
So is it
because it's
$35?
above and beyond their regular work schedule.
64 times
I
12.
think if you take a look at what we're all,
But still, Maria, is that $35 an hour on Saturday and Sunday, or is it 64?
No, it's $35, well, we only gonna charge $35 an hour, even though we have to pay time and a half.
So you're still paying the time and a half, the
Yes.
only thing you're doing is their straight time.
Yes, because
Okay.
that's what the policy says, that the custodial fee is $35 an
Okay.
hour.
So we already are paying,
So we are paying,
Subsidizing.
we're still
we're
paying that.
subsidizing,
Okay.
okay.
Well, if they've never paid it
How
before.
many, well, here's the thing,
Yeah.
this policy is for,
It's about
Well,
4, my understanding
I
is 4
understand,
or 5
so
days.
other thing, how many other organizations are using our facilities?
We
On
have,
Saturday or Sunday?
On Saturday or Sunday or anything
we
like
have
that?
a lot of organizations that use them more than Saturday and Sundays in the evening.
Okay.
In the evenings, there are a couple of organizations that do pay
Okay, how
to
many?
use our facilities. I don't know exactly, I know there's one basketball league that pays to use our facilities, and there is one yoga for children organization that also pays fees. I believe it's a gymnastics one that also pays.
I'll try to clarify, because I'm not
In
sure
district,
if we're
out of
talking
district.
about
That's fine.
for-profit type of businesses that have the need of a facility and
But
then
I
pay
don't
rate.
think the current policy discriminates
I
against
think it
those.
does.
Does it
It
discriminate?
has
I
different
think it
rates.
does, and I think it,
Yeah.
and I think
just
it
has
has,
different
I
rates.
think it
Yeah.
also has the ability to bring a situation to the superintendent to determine, where it should go. So I don't know what your parameters are necessarily in regard to that, but I think that there is a vehicle for these to be considered based on what we're really talking about. What is the organization? Is this a community group? Is a nonprofit group that's, got a high percentage of the people involved are our kids that, or is it another group that is, running a business and using our facility?
Yeah, Mark.
I was on policy last year when we were talking about this, and it was last year, and we were trying to differentiate between in-district, out-of-district, for-profit, not-for-profit, national organizations like the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and local. So we did talk about a lot of that and tried to parse that out. When I left the committee, that had not been determined. Last May, or this prior May, we talked about it. I didn't think this board made a definitive decision.
We didn't.
As such, and seeing as how we have a 55-year precedent of not charging them, it seems ill-advised, or I can understand why a lot of folks are upset. I had a couple of town members approach me, both cheer mums and football dads, and saying, hey, what the hell's up with this? And two of the people that approached me, their kids were out of the system now. One of them still had kids in the system, is one of the selectmen in my town, and was saying, what's the deal here? Do I just have to, write a check myself and make this all go away? So with the goodwill that we're trying to generate with our community and be a community, and this is certainly a community, I mean, they are not the Toronto tornadoes, they're the Timberlane tornadoes. I know my kids played rec soccer and rec softball, and perhaps because a janitor wasn't needed, or perhaps because they just used the porta potties, so they didn't need to use the facilities, we weren't charged, and we just kind of looked at this as a community asset that the community was paying for. So I'm kind of leaning toward Don and Jack and Paul on this one.
So question about the Timberlane tornadoes, right? That's what it is?
Yeah.
Not familiar with them.
That's okay.
So
You can come to some games.
No, I know. Sorry, but no. Are they for profit? Since they get
No.
$250 from the parents?
No, 110%, as you heard Jerry say. They're always scraping for money. There is no money. Not a coach gets a dime, nobody gets a dime. They put in thousands of hours. And no, it is not. A for-profit would be like a big AAU baseball team. Or when I came in, I think you were on the board at the time, and I asked to borrow a field because St. A's had canceled, they double booked the field. That guy makes tons of money throwing tournaments, right? That's a for-profit organization where teams pay to play in those tournaments. He's very happy to write a check for fields if he can find them. These guys are scraping. And the other thing that's missing here is, where's another football field? It is the biggest thing in the world for a third or fourth grader to get out on that field after working all week. I can't in my heart of hearts deny these kids their 10 minutes of playing time on the
So this
football field.
policy, I know it pertains to any and all people that wanna use this to use our facilities. I know that it's done in different brackets, that it's at rates, correct? Is that the thing? So your motion is just for the tornadoes.
This one time for the tornadoes
But if
until
we
we
want-
get the policy.
But if we're wanting to be clear and equitable, what about everybody else that's using these facilities?
I don't
Let's
believe,
take a look at anybody else that's having the same, type of concern. I haven't,
But what I'm saying though is that when you have a public building and you're letting people access, if you're gonna let one group access it, you have to let all people access it, or it's nobody. So I understand what you all are saying, but you have to take your emotions out of this and look at the thing and say, look, you're doing it just for one group when this is a policy, and I understand past precedents, I totally get that. But what you were saying is that you're saying this one group doesn't have to,
No,
but no, just listen to what I'm saying. I understand, take your emotions out, okay? You're saying this one group for this policy doesn't have to pay until we revise it. But then you've got all these other groups and any other groups, when it's parceled out in the policy of different rates, saying, oh, but you all still do. I get the emotion, I get the precedence, I'm just letting you all know, if this moves forward, that's what it
what the
is.
policy actually says, and the way this is always operated, is that the superintendent of the school board can waive any policy at any given time for any set of circumstances. My emotions has got nothing to do with it. What kind of irked me was, and I have the letters here in case anyone wants to see them, the reasons that were given were less than appropriate. Some of the comments that were made were less than appropriate. I think our residents deserve better than that. But no, I would be more than willing, until we take another look at this policy, to review anyone that is paying. Now, as Dawn, I think, pointed out, that basketball team could be an out-of-district team coming in to use our facility. I don't think that's our children playing on the basketball courts.
Bree and then Mark.
So maybe to have more equitability, could we potentially amend the motion to say any 100% in district non-profit organization using the facility be waived
said
this
that.
year?
I think either you do all or none. Because like I said, because it's the policy.
May I make a friendly amendment if you'll accept it, Jack?
You can make it.
I'll make it, see if it's acceptable to you. At this point in time, and we'll have to work on the wording, keep things status quo, so nothing has changed. If we're currently charging organizations, if we have been historically, keep it that way. Make no changes to precedent until this board has a chance to review the policies in their entirety and the ramifications. Therefore, this letter that we are aware of, and we don't know how many others went out there, is null and void until we have an opportunity as a board to review what we started reviewing in May. So no changes. Would that be acceptable to you?
It's basically, we're saying the same exact thing. I mean.
No, but you singled out the tornado,
No, so to what Bree said, that was my opinion when we first got that policy on May 2nd. I think I may have even called one of these and said, hey, I just think any nonprofit in district
That's what I'm trying to say.
group shouldn't have to pay. It's just, they already do.
Yes.
We're not talking about the type of money that we were talking about with even a $500,000 allotment that cost us, what, 30 cents or something, or $30 a year or whatever. This is small money in the big budget piece, but it'd be good to know what it is, so we can make sure it's budgeted to pay whatever it is for the custodial pieces that are required to have a building safely, monitored, and kept up with, while we give our
Yes,
community
we did.
access to our resources.
So I just wanna say that I just pulled up the policy and it was revised and voted and put into place on the 15th of June. So we have looked at this recently and there were discussions about it. I think that it makes sense to potentially revisit in policy for sure. Some of the language, but it's pretty clear in here. And again, my heart says that kids that go to these schools should be able to use our fields and our facilities and their parents pay for it, and I understand that. There's a statement in this policy that also says, which speaks to my being fiscally responsible role here, is that whenever a community group is permitted to use a school or other facility, at least one district employee must be on hand, paid for by the organization, when in the opinion of the superintendent, it is necessary to supervise the individuals and protect school property. The number of paid employees shall depend on the service, the number to be served, and the number of volunteers. I'm feeling as though my question is, do we know how many of our paid employees were allotted or required for this particular organization? And is that something that we might be able to be flexible with?
I
To
know that he
decrease the
said
cost
tonight-
or decrease a shared
He
cost?
said tonight he had two people that were part of that organization that were, that worked with the tornadoes. They also worked for Timberline.
But they're not here representing
No,
Timberlane,
but-
but I
but-
hear you.
That said, maybe that's a designation that you would have to make if that happened to be the situation. If the superintendent looked at it and said, okay, now, your role here is to do this. I don't know if that's possible in this case, but, there's an opportunity there.
So my question is, do we have custodians on site during the weekends? Like, say there's nobody, no one
No.
playing,
No.
nobody anywhere?
So they're coming and they're
So
working
are the buildings
overtime.
unsafe then?
You don't have people.
You don't have
gotta
people
read the-
in them or
I'll give you the
accessing them.
letter, you gotta read the
Yeah,
letter.
well, and then in terms of liability, I can understand that if they're using district property, I would imagine that somebody from the district needs to be
They're fully insured.
Justin.
here, help me.
Justin.
Just wanna ask Maria two questions
Yes.
based upon the language in the policy,
Thank you.
because to revisit why the policy committee thought that was important. General questions about folks that have used our facility, not specific to the group that we've discussed tonight, but just generally. One is, have we had damage to the facility that we have had to repair during facility requests and when people have rented facilities from us. Yes. Second question is, have we had an impact to the facility that then makes it sometimes more difficult or less advantageous for the students who attend K to 12?
I don't understand
I
that last
think those were the two main criteria for study charging them on help us with the cost of maintaining.
So I asked Maria those questions because what came up through policy is we have an obligation as a district to have a staff member present because we've had experiences in the past with damage to the facilities during rentals. But also I'd categorize it as wear and tear on the facility that then is not accessible the way that it maybe should be for the actual students that are here during their organized school activities, be they athletics or any of the other things. So that was part of the discussion that policy had around, we should have someone of our people there, not only for that stuff, but if there's a facility fail, someone needs to be on site to deal with that.
Yes.
If there's a facility emergency and we've got folks here, someone needs to be on site to deal with that. So those are the rationale, we wanna have people there. It's not for picking up garbage of the folks that are here.
So the
Right.
only facilities that they use are the bathrooms. As far as any damage that's done, I know that the organizations that use them are liable for the damage that's done. There was damage done to the bathroom, I think it was a cup of hot chocolate and a towel dispenser was ripped off the wall, and they wrote a check for $1,000. So
I get
the
it.
point being, I don't know how a custodian could prevent that from happening, because if that was the case, our high school would never be open, right? And we have staff administration, teachers, paras walking hallways, and those things still tend to happen. Again, I go back to the third graders wanting their moment on the sun on the field. If we can't facilitate that for a cost of a custodian, then you know what? Take that strategic plan and throw it out the window, because we're going against every principle that you guys work so hard to put in that strategic plan. That's just my 2 cents on it, and those guys who have given 20 years, and remember, and now I am getting a little emotional.
Yeah, and
Wait,
speak
wait,
for a few more
excuse me, I have the floor.
Yeah,
So,
you do.
so,
I'm saying, use it
so
wisely.
they are out there from 6 o'clock to 9:30 in November, 6 nights a week, right? They put in the time and the dedication. I think the least we can do is support them with 4 days of custodials. That's because they are our kids. We love them like they're our kids. We wanna give them every opportunity, and I said, they learn a lot more than how to block and tackle or cheer. They learn the life lessons that are so important to the climate and culture that we always address and speak to.
So we have discussed this quite well. I'm gonna vote no to this motion because I am going to go with the administration and the fact that we voted on this policy on the 15th. I understand that the football team and everything has done wonders for kids. I played sports a lot whenever I was growing up. I understand the impact, but again, it's all organizations. And I understand there's parse stuff out, but this is what the policy states. We need to be consistent. I believe we need more information if we are gonna change the policy. So I am gonna be voting no to this, but is there any other discussion before we go on to a vote? Dawn?
I wanna get back to what Mark had said in terms of, it wasn't a motion, but it was a suggestion about what could become a motion, would be to, alter it, to make it more universally, the change that we're going to honor this for any group that meets a criteria, which would be that it's a non-profit, community-based program, that's representing, everything that we stand for. Helping kids, be actively involved in a healthy way and growing up with adult support from our community.
Make the amendment, you second it, and that would be my opinion. And
Well, first, we have something on the floor, so you're gonna,
What's that?
you're gonna say.
yeah, I was just gonna say, when we reviewed this policy, and it was kind of weird, we looked at it tonight. It was, what was it, K something R? The way that policy is so long and so convoluted, it is actually written out as, what is it, hang on. It's KFZ, then KFR, What was referred to in the letter was KFR. And when we first started reviewing that was it June? I started looking all over the place and I said, it's not the same policy. And I'm looking at it, I'm saying, that is not the same policy, because it didn't have the pricing grid for everything. And nowhere in there did I see that. So I think that policy is broken up into a couple different sections, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we only, when we reviewed that, only got one policy. And like I said, I have a letter of correspondence from May 2nd, and I have a letter from correspondence from that Jerry got, all completely different reasons why we shouldn't be doing this. But again, this is a simple motion. If you guys want to amend it to that, I think that's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It accomplishes the same thing, with the exception of your amendment would make it more consistent. And that was the amendment I wanted to do to this policy from the very beginning. In district, nonprofits, volunteerism, they should be getting our full support for $83 million a year.
All right, we've discussed this. Are you wanting to make a motion to amend?
I'll make a motion to amend. Let's work on the verbiage here. Make a motion to amend Jack's motion to say, for the time being, until the board has the opportunity to review this policy in full, we maintain historic precedence with all organizations.
How about?
Does that make sense to everybody?
How
That's
about?
what the intention is.
That's fine, but how about if you just did, again, it's a little wordy, but just in-district nonprofit organizations, because I still think the out-of-district organization should be contributing.
There should be no confusion about that.
Agree. Okay.
And I don't know every organization's, history. So, I think that if I were in a soccer program and I'm getting charged and paying currently for a custodian, I'm not saying that's going on, and I see that, well, historically that hasn't happened to another group, I would be in here asking for that same piece. So I think if we're gonna do this, you do it for everybody that fits that category, which is those community-based nonprofits.
So I'll take the amendment to my amendment to Jack's motion. Go Don.
Okay, well, we gotta clean it up because our poor secretary is trying to.
The amendment is to waive all charges for nonprofit in-district organizations for the time being.
Until the board has a chance to review the policy in its entirety.
Okay. We've got a motion. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Would you like me to repeat it?
So pretty much they are waiving
No, because you're interjecting if just one person makes.
Yeah.
Cause you made the amendment, but then you added.
It's all his amendment, it's all his amendment.
Well, then
Well, no, but his amendment he made originally is no good, cause you just did another one, right?
I did.
Would you like me to read what you originally
be
said, and then
wonderful.
you can show me
That
where
would be
you
wonderful.
want me to plug something in?
Thank you.
To amend Jack Sapia's motion to say, for the time being, until the board has the opportunity to review this policy in full, we maintain all historic precedents. And then you wanted to add in-district nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
before we
Erase.
before we go into any other of the motions, because you all need a minute to sit and think about how you really want to word this, because it keeps going back and forth. Justin wants to make a comment.
Appreciate the consistency that everyone's trying to work for. I think that is exactly what we should be doing. I want to caution everyone that we don't do something tonight that then inadvertently impacts other aspects of our district, most specifically the PAC, and how they organize their groups that come in and use that facility. Yes. That is much more of a funding mechanism and piece. And if we're gonna, I agree that things should apply to all, but if we're gonna make something that applies to all, we may be inadvertently impacting some either contracts or agreements that the PAC moves through a different set of processes.
I think it is similar to what we're getting at in that, but they may have a custodial fee. So I think you're right, we need to look at that in terms of when we frame policy. Maybe that gives us kind of an urgency to get after this pretty quickly. But I think that it still remains possible for us to go with this amendment and take into consideration if, you know, TMA is here, you know, asking us for, you know, some support on a custodial piece, that we honor that, cause it fits what we're talking about.
Thought of how you wanna word your motion.
You know, I've been listening and trying to process.
Can I take
Perhaps just make a new motion, Jack, start from scratch.
So
make a new
wait,
motion.
he has to, you've gotta recall your
Rescind.
second.
I'll rescind
recall
my
my second.
motion. I'll rescind my
So
motion.
we can make a new motion.
Is it possible, I'm just asking, is there a reason we can't just for now say, make a motion that the Timberlane Tornadoes don't have to pay this fee? Like, it just be done, and then, like,
Make a motion.
because we have that right to do that.
We do have the right, but again, then what if there is another in-district not-for-profit?
Yeah, we deal with it, but we go back to,
You can waive it.
I mean, we still wanna get this back to a review, we're still gonna do that. And we can put that all, because we're not gonna set up new policy, we're not gonna rewrite
That's
the
fair,
policy right now.
that would make it cleaner, but less equitable, but cleaner.
It would be less equitable for now.
Yeah,
Our intent would be.
I don't think it's so hard to, we can come up with a paragraph here. I think that your point is very clear to me. And I don't wanna be setting up that we're doing something uniquely for the football program that applies equally to other programs today. It might, and I think we owe them the same courtesy.
and so is this acceptable then, until the board has a chance to review the policy in its entirety, no in-district, non-for-profit organizations will be charged fees that have not historically been charged fees?
I second that motion.
Yeah, please, Shauna.
Sorry for discussion. I do have an idea.
Please.
If it all
We
works.
could use
Looking
it.
for ideas.
I am not sure what the timeline deadline of payment of these fees was to this organization. But is it possible for us to press a pause on the due date of that fee until this board has more time to review this policy as a board?
The only thing I would say to that, Shauna, and I
Like right
think
now,
that's
that's a
very,
bill, and I get
I think,
that.
I think that's very reasonable, but the issue I have with that is that in 55 years, these guys have never paid a dime. They're
All right.
all, wait, excuse me.
No, I'm gonna tell you something, listen here. Just do this, just do this. Just make a motion to leave it as status quo, the way it's been done for all of them, because that's the way it's been done, until you have a chance to revise the thing. That's gonna be the cleanest way, cause that's what we're doing, is we're doing past precedents in history. Okay, cause you've got the tornadoes, we've got a yoga class that's paid forever, we've got a gymnastics class that's paid forever, and that's been status quo. So if that's what you all wanna do, we've been beating this dead horse for a while now, just make that motion to leave it status quo until we have a chance, and that's what it should be. Because that's gonna cover everything, cause be like, well, we're looking at this as historical precedents for all these organizations, and that would be the easiest thing to do, if that's what you all wanna do.
I am comfortable with that.
Okay.
So the motion will be status quo with all fees levied, until the board has a chance to review the policy in its entirety.
I got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Jack. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? And abstained. So 6-1-0. All right. Any
This will
other
be on
business?
next week's agenda.
We will put this on next week's agenda, on the next school board meeting's agenda. Any other business at this time?
Me? Yeah.
All right. We do have a non-public session that we have to go into. Would you please make that motion? We looked at it.
Yes, I make a motion for the board to move into non-public under 91-A:3 paragraph A.
So could I please get a,
Second?
oh, it's been made by Shauna, seconded by Mark, sorry. Could I get a vote?
Yes, Don Woodworth,
Yes.
Yes.
You looked at me, I was
I know, Don, Jack,
Yes.
Colin, Dean,
Yes.
Jeff, Katie, Shauna,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
and Bree.
Yes.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will not be back. Have a good evening.